Hello, well today I'm going to show you a very unusual building. I'm at Brewer Preceptory, one of the very few remaining buildings in England that was built by the Knights Templar. Now I've wanted to visit Brewer for quite some time. It's about 11 miles north of Lincoln and it's situated on the former Brewer farm, which is private property. However, the Preceptory is open to the public all year round. But it's not easy to find, and if you drive here, you have to negotiate the world's bumpiest farm track. Brewer was founded in the period 1150 to 1160, and the temple remained standing long after the destruction of the Knights Templars. But soon after the dissolution of the monasteries, it quickly became little more than a ruin, and now only the Preceptory Tower still stands. But anyway, let's go and have a look inside. Good. Wow. Now this stone effigy of a knight was found in early excavations of the church, and the seating area is for the chaplains and other members of the order. It is thought the chamber served as a side chapel to the main body of the church, which has long since gone. Now let's take these rather narrow stone steps to the first floor of the chamber. Now that's not the original roof, because prior to the early part of the 20th century, the tower was a ruin and it was completely open to the elements.
Now apparently, when the Reverend Dr. George Oliver excavated Brewer in 1883, he found something rather disturbing.
Some of the vaults were appropriated to a purpose that is too revolting to allude to. In one of them, a niche or a cell was discovered, and within it, the skeleton of a man, who appears to have died in a sitting posture, for his head and arms were found hanging between his legs, and the back bowed forward. Immurement was not an uncommon punishment in these places, and an instant of it was discovered a century ago in one of the walls at Thornton Abbey. Another skeleton of an aged man was found in these dungeons, with only a tooth in his head. His body seems to have been thrown down as if from a trap-door, as he lay doubled up, and in the forepart of his skull were 2 holes, which had evidently been produced by violence. In the corner of one of these vaults I found plain indications of burning. The wall stones had assumed the colour of brick, and a great number of cinders were mixed with human skulls and bones, all of which had been submitted to the operation of fire, and some of them were perfectly calloused. This horrible cavern had been closed up with masonry. Underneath the cloisters, between the church and the tower, many human bones were discovered which appear to have been thrown together in the utmost confusion and lying at different depths, some being very near the surface. Amongst these were the skeleton of a very young child, and the skull of an adult, with a round hole in the upper part in which a finger might be inserted, and which was probably the cause of death. Several large square stones were taken up with rings attached, and altogether the ruins exhibited signs of violence. We can scarcely forbear entertaining the opinion that these are the remains of unhappy people who have been confined in the dungeons of the Preceptory. For the Templars were forever at feud with their neighbours, and they also possessed the powers of executing criminals within their own liberties.
Dr. Oliver's lurid accounts of torture and murder at Temple Brewer proved to be sheer fantasy.
A more prosaic excavation carried out in 1907 suggests that Dr. Oliver had not been present for much of his excavations, and his workmen had misinterpreted features of the Preceptory. The skeletons, which he claimed to have shown marks of violence, had been found in a crypt underneath the church, and the horrible cavern, the stones of which assumed the colour of brick, was a medieval oven. As for his claims that the Templars had committed all kinds of atrocities on their neighbours, in truth they were the largest employers in the area. They paid people from neighbouring villages to work their estates, and they established a village for the workers near Temple Brewer, which became the second wealthiest preceptory in England.
Now, so many people throughout the ages have left their mark on Temple Brewer, and I mean that literally. 1876, 1837, I think that says 1749. No date, but Joseph Taylor spells Joseph with an F, which dates the inscription to the 18th century or possibly earlier. Now this is interesting. These are said to be witch marks, offering protection from evil spirits. You'll probably see better if I take a photo. Now it's said that when the Templars were accused of devil worship, local people carved these marks to ward off evil. Now I don't know if that's true, but it's possible that these carvings date back to the time of the Templars. Now you might be wondering, what happened to the Templars? Why were they charged with witchcraft and heresy? Well, to answer that, we need to delve into history.
The Knights Templar were a military monastic order founded in France in 1119 for the purpose of protecting pilgrims making their way to the city of Jerusalem after the First Crusade in 1099. From their humble beginnings, this band of warrior monks became the most feared fighting force of the medieval era. Even when hopelessly outnumbered, they would never retreat or surrender, but would fight to the last man. But after the Christians were driven out of the Holy Land in 1291, support for the Templars faded. The heyday of the Crusades was over. However, the Templars remained a powerful order. They owned many estates and castles, and they set up the first banking system in Europe, which made them extremely wealthy. But this was to be their undoing. King Philip IV of France was facing economic ruin, following extensive wars with the English, and he was deeply in debt to the Templars. So he decided to destroy the order, and steal their wealth. So on the morning of Friday, the 13th of October 1307, he ordered the arrest of the French Templars on 127 charges, including devil worship. They were tortured to extract confessions and burned at the stake. The fate of the Templars in England was less extreme. In 1312, William de la Mor, the Grand Master of the Knights Templars, was arrested at Temple Brewer along with his knights. Unlike their French counterparts, they were not executed, but allowed the freedom to join other religious orders. Temple Brewer was held by the Knights Hospitaller until the dissolution of the monasteries, when Henry VIII granted it to the Duke of Suffolk. From that time, it gradually declined.
Right, back down the stairs. They don't really lead anywhere. There isn't another level as such. Oh, cans of beer. That's why they call it Temple Brewer. Now I'm sure it'll come as no surprise, but Temple Brewer is said to be very haunted. Ghostly Templars are said to walk here on moonlit nights. Now I'm alone here, and I must admit I've heard a few strange noises like someone moving around. I don't know if the sounds are picked up on camera. I wouldn't like to be here at night, that's all I can say. Well, thank you for joining me at the historic Temple Brewer. Now before I go, I just want to show you this. I haven't a clue what it is. Might be the the Templars mailbox. What? Well, I couldn't have put it better myself. Cheers for now, and I'll see you next time.